Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Align Plans. Today we're talking about our 2024 planner and stationery regrets. It's one of those topics that I like to do each year because it gives us a moment to kind of take a look at what I wasted money on. No, that's not the point. We are here because I think that it's very important to take a look at what has been working, but also we need to take stock of what was not working and sort of sometimes kind of celebrate the fact that our style and the way that we use our planner and stationery has evolved. So we're definitely not going to be looking through this from a lens of negativity. We're going to take a look at what wasn't working and then kind of move on from that. So if you have these items, here's your little disclaimer. So if you have these stationery items that I'm about to talk about today, it's okay. These are just my opinions and my experiences. And as I change and I evolve my planner system and my journaling system, things will kind of fall by the wayside, and they are perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine as you shift and change with time, as you grow and evolve. Things that you preferred, a year ago might not be so true for you anymore, and that's totally fine. So just take it with a grain of salt, because obviously these are for entertainment purposes. They're not really here to make you feel bad about your choices, but they are a cautionary tale, however, because I want you to kind of see this, and maybe if you're in the same boat as me, then perhaps you can save a little bit of money. So let's just dive right in. I do have things broken down into categories. If you see me popping over to the side, it's because I'm kind of referring back to my notes so that I don't forget anything. Let me make sure that we're in focus. Yes, we are in focus. Okay, so the first thing that I would like to start with before we dive into the actual stationery is I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about inks and pens. I'm going to kind of clunk them together into like one category because they go together. So first, let's talk about fountain pens. So for fountain pens, I only have 4, and you will notice that 2 of them are my absolute favorite pens of all time. However, not these ones. So I want to kind of talk a little bit about the Kaweco Sports. This one is, I believe it's called Peach, and this one is in mint green. Now, if you had told me that I'm going to add this into a regrets video, and even though I didn't purchase this in 2024, but I definitely have noticed in 2024 that I'm not reaching for it as often, and a lot of it has to do with the nib. So the pen obviously is really identical to all of the other Kaweco Sports. Okay, so if you had told me initially that I would be adding this little guy into a 2024 regrets video, I probably would not have believed you, because I love the size. I love the color, which a really big part of me would love to just, I know how we can kind of mend this issue that I'm having. But honestly, just the reason why I'm not reaching for this is because I kind of hate the nib. That's kind of as simple as that, which is so funny because it's got the same nib. All of these pens have the same nib as the one that I have here. The only difference is that the one that I'm reaching for quite often has a brass nib. All the other ones, if it has a silver nib like this one, it writes a lot finer, and this is a fine nib. This one writes more like a medium fine. So because because the ink can kind of flow a little bit easier, I tend to reach for the white one a lot more. And then the reason why, so I know that I think that we can get separate nibs for the mint Kaweco. And if that's the case, then obviously it's just switching out the nib and then the love affair can continue. But this, I don't know what's going on with this. I love everything about it, but like, look how nasty this looks right now. And the reason why it looks so dirty is because I continuously have issues with having the cartridge, like what's inside of it. So I'm having issues with this attaching properly into the pen. And so I'm continuously having, obviously, ink spillage. And that makes me kind of hate the ink that I even used initially. But then also, it doesn't make me want to reach for a really runny pen. Like, I switched the ink out from September to right now. Like, I just swapped the inks the other day. So we'll see if there's any issues with runniness. But I mean, nobody wants to reach for a pen that runs everywhere, and then you're going to have a huge mess. Other than that, again, the body is the same as all of the other ones, but I just tend to reach for the white one a lot more often because I never really had any issues with the white one. Go figure. Let's talk about Pilot Prera. This has been my absolute favorites for a really long time because I love this. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, the whole mechanism is fantastic. So there isn't enough good things that I can say about it, except what I do notice that even though this is, again, a fine nib that we have, I still find that the ink runs through it quite a bit. It runs like it's a medium nib for me. So that means if I have, and I mean, if you've seen any of my planner lineup, you've seen that I do have, obviously, we have the Traveler's Notebook, which is in a smaller size. Obviously, I have the Hobonichi Weeks, which also has like a smaller grid, so it requires smaller handwriting or thinner handwriting. Obviously, I have like a whole lot of like little pocket-sized notebooks. So I kind of feel like I'm looking for pens, like fine tip pens, that will kind of accommodate that. So obviously, I would be looking for a pen that would kind of accommodate that. Now, yes, I can go with the fine tip felt tip pens, but then and I'm finding that too, like if I write in my Hibino, which is also in like a little A6 size, I find that like the spreads that I make with it are so runny, and eventually it's just like my words just kind of like run together, which to me it just feels very frustrating because I'm not able to write. I think this would be it. So like this is like an example of the spread. Like it looks so messy and runny, and I have to write much bigger with like a larger font than I would like to. Sometimes I do prefer this like in my Hobonichi Cousin, but it's almost like I have to assign certain pens to certain planners, which I don't necessarily like to do because I feel really restricted in the process. So anyway, so I'm just not finding it to be my favorite right now. And again, if I would be able to swap out the nib, but then don't tell me that it's going to be a fine nib if it's not going to write like a fine. Do you know what I mean? So, and then last one is, this is the, I believe this is actually a fine nib from Lamy in green. I used to really, really love this. I like the grip on this pen, so I found it to be very comfortable, except I'm finding that like I'm angling my hand completely differently as soon as I'm trying to kind of line up the nib properly, and then it changes my handwriting, which I'm not a huge fan of. I really like pens like the Sailor and obviously the Kaweco Sport, where it doesn't matter in what angle I'm using the pen, it just works beautifully. So here it's kind of like I have a sense of regret about it because it doesn't function the same way or in a really similar seamless way than the way that I'm using all the other ones. And this is just sort of like a brief mention about the Uni 1 pen. I do love these pens. I think that they're very functional. I do find that the ink in this particular one, this is in a 0.5 thickness. This ink cartridge runs quite heavily. So if I just show you, like these are like some of my outlines, it runs quite heavy, which means that it's a runnier ink. So you will need a little bit of time for it to kind of dry up before you end up using it. My solution to this, and I have this in like a little chubby size, love it. One of my favorite pens, but the only way that I was able to make that work is if I take the ink cartridge out and then I put the Sarasa, like I take the ink out of the Sarasa pens. So if I take like the Sarasa clip from Zebra out, and then this fits into the Uni 1. If I'm trying to use the Uni 1 ink that's in here, to me it's either the colored ones are too dry and this one is way too runny. So like I'm just not finding the happy medium, but I do love the body. So it's, yeah, that's all I can say about that. Moving on to stationery. Oh, and as far as inks are concerned, I'm only going to show you like maybe 3 because this happened just recently. And this would actually happen with the Peach Kaweco. So this was the pen that this ink was loaded up in, and that's Octopus Fluids Violet B. So that's this one right here. I find that this is an extremely runny ink. This was my first time trying it, which is why I bought it as a sample. So I'm glad that I did. It's a beautiful color. It like splashed all over the pen. So I couldn't even really try it. And I kind of found that to be pretty consistent with most of the Octopus Fluids. I did load up Octopus Fluids Patrol Deer into my Ferris wheel press. wasn't something I was actually reaching for. I kind of hated it. It definitely felt like a complete regret moment. Again, I'm glad I tried it out, but I also know that like there's no way I'm going to be buying that ink again, because it really doesn't work for me. So those were the two. And then the other one that I wanted to mention is this J. Herbin Vert Atlantide. Love the color. I love everything about this. However, I find that on the opposite side of things, this is very drying ink. So I have to be really careful of the type of pen that I loaded in. Maybe this would do really, really well in the Kawecos where things can run a little bit easier, or in the Pilot Pereira. However, I don't know, like sometimes when I buy inks, I just want it to work. You know what I mean? I don't want to be like, okay, well, let's try it in this pen and let's try it in this pen and like run through like 3 different inking sessions just so that you can make one ink work because you like the color. Do you know what I mean? I really like it when it doesn't matter which one I fill it in. It's going to work. It's going to look beautiful. It's going to be relatively true to color when I'm swatching it with a fine nib pen, right? I don't know. I never really have this issue with any of the Pilots or with the Sailor colors. So I'm glad I'm trying out other brands, but then this is kind of what I'm noticing. Moving on, I don't have a ton of stationery, which is, I mean, it took me at least about an hour to kind of look through my entire stash to see what did we regret in 2024. And I mean, kudos to me, because if you look back in any of the previous stationery regrets, there were like a lot more products that I was sharing that was just not working, or the system wasn't working, or I really hated certain things the way that they worked. I'm quite happy to report that like I ran some experiments, and for the most part, for the few things that I'm mentioning here, things have been working out really well. So I encourage you guys to kind of do this experiment for yourselves as well. And by the way, if you're finding this video helpful and useful, make sure that you subscribe to the channel and hit the notification. That way you don't miss another video. Now, back to stationery items. So the first thing I wanted to mention is actually a subscription box. I'm not going to show you because honestly, it's completely unpacked. But I regret it, but I don't regret it. I regret getting the cloth and paper subscription box. I thought I could come back to it. I thought I could like enjoy it all over again. I thought I could rekindle the love affair. Maybe we can start dating and going for coffee again. I did get a couple of boxes. I did a whole comparison video to the Infinite Lotus one. If you haven't seen that video, it will be not in the notes, but I will just pop it in the card so you can check that out. It's like, the items are great, but I mean, items are like this thing. This is a perfect example of like, you walk away from this. First of all, I don't want to glare it in your face, so I'm just going to put it down. This kind of made me feel like, are you kidding me with this? And I mean, when I'm looking at like what comes up month after month, part of me is just like, are you serious right now? You know what I mean? Because it's just these things that are coming in a sub box. And I mean, I'm getting that we're trying to like think outside the box, and we're trying to be creative and really follow this lifestyle. But it just really, really made me feel like cloth and paper sub boxes are becoming completely out of touch for what most stationery lovers are looking for. Sort of like when Instagram is trying to be too many things. So that's sort of the vibe that I'm getting. And in a huge way, I regret getting the box because it's sort of like I have no use for this. And then now it's just going to sit here. I will make it work. Now, I will say this. So I'm not going to be wasteful about this, and I'm not going to be someone that just kind of starts throwing things out because I'm not going to use it. I will either gift it or I will add it in a giveaway. So don't get that part twisted. But at the end of the day, when that's how you constantly have to create these extra systems to recycle the things that came in because it really didn't work for you, that just means that that system or what that company is offering is not in alignment with what you're looking for. And that's exactly what I realized. So again, I'm grateful that I realized it, but I also have a huge regret of getting it because there's a lot more items in that box that I cannot use than things that I can. And like, I mean, and that goes for things like these massive sticky notes. I mean, again, go back to what I'm using day to day. If I'm using something little like this, or even some, like I can add this somewhere, but it's not something that I reach for all the time. So then I have like a full stack of them. Again, Some of the sticky notes, I mean, I don't know why I put this on my desk. I am actually continuing to use this. I don't reach for these sticky notes very often, but when I do like the ones from May Paper Co. I also like the ones that I get from the ones that came in. I will just mention this, but like literally watch the full video. If I'm looking at the sticky notes and stuff that came in, even the tearaway pads from Infinite Lotus, to this day, I'm still using it and I'm finding it so functional and I reach for this regularly. So I'm just here to say, like, you can get sub boxes that are actually functional for you versus getting this situation. Next thing that I wanted to mention is actually, and I even hate myself saying this, but just based on how I use this planner, and I mean, I love this so much, but it's just, I'm slowly starting to acknowledge that maybe it wasn't the best idea to get this wallet, but I love everything about this. So I'm still going to try to make it work where I'm adding in functional stickers and try to make this little pouch work. But right now, it very much just starting to feel like it's going to come out of this planner. I mean, like I said, like I will do my best to try to make this work, because the way I could also do this is just put it on the outside, or put it like attach it to the very outside of the actual system. But the way when it's like it's wrapping an actual booklet, I find that it's bulking up the system just a little bit, and then I'm not able to, or I'm not finding myself putting too many things in here. So I'm not putting too many things inside these pockets. So I'm trying to like figure out like what is it that I want to use it for, how I want to use it, because again, the leather itself is absolutely stunning. I want to kind of, and the other thing is like sometimes it gets like residue on there from, I don't know from what, but because nothing is really touching it. So I would like to make this work because it's such a stunning, like if you would feel this leather, it's so beautiful and buttery soft. So I want to kind of figure out how we can make this work. So I haven't given up on it yet, but she's slowly moving on to my regret list. The next thing that I wanted to mention, we talked a little bit about the uni pens, which you know, and then you will probably hate me for this, just the same way that when we were talking, but the is it for you with the traveler's notebook. It's a common planner. It's a common planner, and it's actually both of them. It's both. I bought it so that I can not necessarily compare this to the Hobonichi Weeks. Like that wasn't my intention. There's so much I love about this. But I'm also like, I don't see myself replacing the Hobonichi Weeks for this. And that's what it really comes down to. I'm glad I tried it. I will continue to use the note section up. Right now, I'm using them more very functionally, more like an actual commonplace book and more for like social media planning and that sort of thing. I will say this, I really love the space arrangement here with the weeks layout. But then again, do we have a use for it right now? Will I have a use for it in 2025? No, I will not, because I already bought a slightly bigger sister called the Traveler's Notebook, which is actually, it just feels like it's a lot thinner and it's a lot more functional, because then I can actually plan out the way I want. And I'm not worried about the Tombow River paper. And honestly, like I'm gonna be one of those weirdos that like I can't stand the white paper. It really bugs me. There's something that I love about it, but if I write in there for long periods of time, maybe it could just be that like my eyesight isn't as strong, but honest to goodness, like my eyes just fatigue like crazy. And maybe you have found that too, but I think that's kind of why I'm just not naturally gravitated towards the common planner. And I mean, the same thing goes with this guy. I mean, I really did give it an actual shot. I went from, and I think I bought this from, did I buy this from? Yeah, I bought like a 6 months one. So, because I knew that I'm like, I'm not going to commit to you for a full year. So I bought it from, this started in July and I was pretty consistent with the monthlies all the way up to about September. So I gave it 2 full months, and I did actually decorate October as well. I haven't done November, but I don't think I will, to be honest. And then weeklies, I was really consistent, and it was working, but it was not working because as soon as, I think around the time that, like end of August, around the time that Hobonichi season started, it's like, this is what's happening. As soon as Hobonichi season started, as soon as they released the new stuff for 2025, I'm not saying that, you know, Hobonichi Hun is going to be the all-in-all and end-all, but there's something to be said about a hardcover book that has the entire year in there, that's slightly bigger. So if I wanted to add pictures, I could. So initially I went in here just so I can try out, you know, going back to like really planning / journaling the way that I used to, and see if this still works for me. And honestly, I'm happy to report that it was just like, I haven't touched this. I haven't filled this out. I am using sometimes the note section for actual work if I'm taking courses and things like that. So like I said, again, it's going to be one of those things where maybe I will finish the year with this on social media planning. Maybe I will finish the year with this on any commonplace book planning and stuff like that. But to be really fair, I do have more than enough notebooks that I like to carry with me. So maybe what I could do is try to just repurpose some of these pages and then add it into like a little, and then make my own notebook. That might be cool. That I would be into, to be fair. So stay tuned if I ever decide to do that. But right now I just don't have the urge to constantly figure out like new ways of repurposing something that is just not working for me. I would just might as well just write it off that it's not working for me and just move on. But I mean, if I do repurpose it, you will be the first to know. And then as far as like decor and stuff like that is concerned, again, I do feel like I really kind of honed in a little bit more in 2024 on what my style is, what I love using, what sub boxes I love using. There's only been one actual sub box that wasn't really working all that great for me. I will just insert a picture of what it is. It's the modern, I think it's called the Modern Analog. So it's not Modern Journal, it's Modern Analog. I only got one box for October. If you're in Canada, for full transparency, it cost me about $50, and I was so disappointed for what you actually can get for $50. We can probably do like a whole video on stationery sub boxes that are worth it and stationery sub boxes that are not worth it. If you wanted to see that, comment below and let me know, because I do have a lot to say about that. I've never gone down the rabbit hole of looking at the Coffee Monster scope, because that's actually what's coming up next that I'm kind of regretting even having at this point. We're getting to a point where like I had these for a while. I wanted to try them. I also have some Ohana Story, and they're great. They're so cute, right? Like they're so cute. It's just not my style anymore. And I don't want to speak poorly about it because I know how many of you really love it. But I'm like, I don't reach for them. Like that's ultimately what it comes down to. Is like the way that you know if you love something or not is do you reach for it? I just find that like a lot of the times it doesn't necessarily fit into the way that I journal, the way that I love to memory keep. So then it's just, especially like stuff like this, like I feel like this was created by a college girl, which, you know, Helen is like much younger than most of us. So I don't know. There's nothing wrong with them. Like they're great little stickers. They work perfectly fine, but it's just legitimately it's just not my style. So they just kind of sit in my little pouch thing and just collect dust because I just don't end up reaching for them. I will probably force myself to just push through it and just use them up. But it's definitely not something that I'm like, ooh, top of mind. Like, let me, you know, maybe we'll do like a whole challenge like in the next year where we just kind of blast through some of these stickers and just kind of use them up so that we can kind of move on. But honestly, it's not something that I'm actually enjoying. But I am enjoying as an alternative though is something like the Modern Journaler, where, and even like some of the Midori stickers, super cute, I love it, where I'm looking at like a full stack. This came as a 1 month, and I mean, oh, just stunning, and it's neutral, but it's beautiful, and it's all themed, and I don't feel like a child when I'm using them. I feel like an elegant, sophisticated woman that just happens to capture all of the wisdom that comes out of my I don't know. That's, you know, like it matters the way that certain stationery makes you feel. You also get like these little folders. We're not making like a whole segment on modern journal. She's not like paying me or anything like that. But I mean, like just some of the stickers and just like these little elements that she has in there. This one is like the Pantone colors, and then like these larger like decor stickers. This is so my style. And I think that like a lot of you would probably agree that it becomes a lot more versatile versus in comparison to like, oh, there's like a little girl with like a little weird hoodie. Like this would be suitable for my daughter who's now 13. Do you know what I mean? So it's just, I just think that like there's like an age gap where this no longer fits my style because I'm looking for something a little bit more grown up. Sometimes I do add like the Mizutama girls but those are not usually the spreads that kind of dominate in my journals and in my planners. So that's basically it. Oh, and one more thing I wanted to briefly mention about the Travelers Company, actually, and this is a recent purchase that I kind of hate right now, is the Travelers Company's pen loop. What were we thinking? It's a what were we thinking moment because I didn't realize that I can use it. Again, don't get it twisted. We will make this work. However, the pen that I can loop through this one is a Uni 1 pen, works just fine. Any of my pens that I have that are fountain pens, which is what I tend to use all the time, it does not really fit through. Like it fits through like in a weird way. You know what I mean? And then you can be like, oh, but like, why don't you just use like the little pen loop and then just loop it through? Because this looks stupid. Like this looks really weird to me. And then you're like, okay, why don't you just loop it through here? Then explain to me the purpose of this. There is no purpose. Exactly. I see myself out. So the way that I have made it work is that the Kaweco Sport is actually attached to the passport, and I usually just add it by the spine, and then she's happy. And then for this, I usually actually loop through a Muji pen, which is something so universal. It's long enough and thin enough that it just fits right through, and then we have a happy medium. So it's not that I couldn't make it work, but I kind of regret getting it because I'm not looping through the pen that I would normally want to use. So if you guys have a suggestion for me of like, I just need a bigger pen loop basically. So if somebody wants to grab this off of me, please let me know because I would love to rehome her and make sure that she goes to a new home. So, see, we survived. Look at us go. High five, besties. So this is what I wanted to share with you. Let me know, out of all the things that I shared with you, what is something that you currently have that you absolutely love? No, that's not your question of the day. Honestly, I would like you to share, now that I've shared my secrets, I want you to share in the comment section below, what is one planner or stationery regret that you have for 2024? Comment below, let me know. I would love to hear from you. Obviously, if you love this video, first of all, I'm so glad that you hung out with me today. I hope that you have enjoyed this. If you did, you can subscribe, you can do all the things. You can share it with your friends. You can obviously hit the notification bell, that way you get notified every time I release a new video. And just keep planning, keep journaling, keep doing all the things, and I cannot wait to see you in my next one. Bye.